So one of the ways that we can support that is to increase some flexibility and some options for folks. And specifically, one of those ways is through tailored day services. So I am going to go through today the policy. So most of it, the policy really is outlined in the law. So I'm going to go through the law about kind of what tailored day is and some of the specifics that are in the law. And then I'll point out two things in particular that will be coming out here in the next several days about some specifics on, as Director Bargeman mentioned, kind of the vendorization, what needs to be done at the provider level, and then what details need to be done down at the individual level as well. Tailored Day is really designed to, and it's outlined in the law, to increase individuals' opportunities to do the things listed here. The four that are furthest most to the right I'll get into in more detail, but really the two that I want to highlight here, and you'll hear a lot probably with other presenters, and certainly I'm going to focus on this as well too. These are two just critical things here. One, folks need to be in charge of their services and get support to create those services that meet their needs. And so you're going to hear, again, that theme throughout the discussion today, is that we really want to make sure that those principles are in play as we move forward. So one of the things that's required in the law is what's called an individual service design. So that's one of the things that I said that, while it's referenced in the law, will be part of the guidance that we put out here over the next several days. It's going to be a template for what that individualized service design is. Because unlike kind of the services that are provided now, those are more program designs that are at the provider level, if you will. This is at the individual design. So the people are being supported, as I said on the prior slide, to be in charge of what their services are and help design what those supports look like. And so this individualized service design is going to be simple. Again, it's going to be a template that's going to outline some of the changes and the supports that we'll talk about later, be more of a checkbox, kind of fill in the blank, very simple, that then goes through and has to be included as part of the individual program plan, just like other services, developed through a person-centered way. And then even though it says approved by the regional center, that's really, we're talking about the individual program plan process. So it's in agreement or with agreement with the regional center and the consumer, is that these services are going to be put into place. So I mentioned some of these changes, but just to point these out. So starting in July, the first one, as I mentioned before, prior to July, if individual wanted to tailor their day services, then that was their only option. They then could not also use day program, employment, work activity programs as well. Now you can, beginning in July. Still can't be on the same day, except if it's an individual that is transitioning out of a work activity program. And then those services could be used on the same day, so the work activity and the tailored day, for a 6-month period of time to help in that transition. So this is the rate. I mentioned that there was a rate study. I'm sure folks are familiar with it, but if we can put in a link to the chat where you can find these rates. The rate study did propose rates, and they're different for each regional center. So what you're seeing here is just an example for most services that are provided, but tailored day was not one of them. So we used and based the rate in the law. The rate is based on one of the rates, and it says here in that first bullet, is for community-based day, where it says community only. It says a 1-to-2 ratio rate, meaning 1 staff person for 2 consumers. So that's what the rate is based on. So if you go up to the top there in the blue, so let's just assume that rate, that 1-to-2 ratio rate, is $26.85. Requires us to do a little bit of math. We then multiply that by 2, right? Because instead of 1 person for 2 individuals, you're serving 1 individual, and then it takes 80% of that rate, or 80% of that answer. And so in this case, again, for example, the tailored day rate would be $42.96 per hour. So that means there's not a negotiation process that needs to go on. It's going to be set for all providers, for providers who begin offering services after June or July, starting in July. This would be the rate. It would, again, vary by each regional center for those who are serving individuals starting in July. Now, there are some differences. So as in the second bullet does talk about providers who are delivering tailored dates prior to July 1. If their rate happens to be higher than $42.96 currently, it gets to stay that way through June of 2026. And then it'll be adjusted down to the rate that would be with everyone else. So again, there is a little bit of math involved, but it doesn't get into the negotiation anymore and doesn't have the same kind of cost savings, if you will, requirements as were in place prior to July of 2022.